Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 10. I'm your host, Joe Baress, joined always by my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, it's a Monday evening, about 8:30. How we doing?
Joe, we're hanging in there. It was a very eventful weekend.
Yeah,
We had a lot of action.
certainly.
Not to mention the jarring news out of State College this weekend. So
Seriously, Joby, we do have a lot to get to on this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to all of it, but
Don't let me slow you down, Joe.
what we will get to right now, as we always do, we are joined by our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week. This week it is Johnley Jean of Dunmore Soccer. Johnley, how we doing, man?
Good. Doing good.
Thanks for joining us. Just to let everyone know what Johnley did last week. Senior had 8 of his team's 9 goals to lead Dunmore to 3 wins. He had 3 goals, including the game winner, as time expired to lead Dunmore to a 4-3 win over Western Wayne on Wednesday. Also had 4 goals in a win over Gregory the Great on October 6th, and the lone goal in the Bucks 1-0 victory over Dallas on Saturday. Just to boot, he also kicked 4 extra points in Dunmore football's 42-7 win over West Scranton. And just found out right before the show that Johnley added 2 more goals tonight in a 9-1 win over Lakeland. Johnley, let's actually start there at the moment. Tonight was Parents' Night for you. You know, what was tonight like for you? Your last regular season game at home, and it was Parents' Night. What was that like?
I just knew I had to pop out, just like our last regular game and before playoffs. So I just wanted to do my best, and I did. We all did.
Johnley, so tell me your background in soccer here. I mean, clearly you're an outstanding offensive player, but tell me about how, this sport came to be one that you really kind of focused on.
It's whatever. Me and my brother we just always play. It was like in the street of Brazil. We just always play together, and we just like train each other. And then we just like started with it. We started watching this player Neymar, and we just love the sport since there.
Yeah, Johnley, let's get into it a little bit. Obviously, you did an Athlete of the Week interview with me yesterday. That's going to be running in Tuesday's paper, and it'll be online as well. But as I mentioned to you, I didn't do enough research, and I realized that you moved here from Brazil. Tell me a little bit about, what the transition's been like from Brazil to the United States for you.
It was way different. Like the schools, like I only had 5 hours in school in Brazil, and then here's like 9, I think.
Wow.
And it was crazy. I love America.
Yeah, it's the crazy thing about that, and the cool thing is, like I mentioned to you, my aunt actually moved from the U.S. to Brazil. So my family, I have family in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. Saw some of them at a family reunion recently. They all speak fluent Portuguese as well as English, and I hear that you also speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
One thing that made me laugh is that our former colleague Sam Freeman did a story about when Dunmore had a bunch of, obviously, your brother and there were a lot of brothers on the team. Tell me about you and your brother used to speak Portuguese on the field.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. Tell me about that, and if there were like any moments where like it was really, really helpful for you when it stuck out.
Yeah, it was because our chemistry is just like been like speaking Portuguese, and then like it would be different. We like speaking English in the field, and like that really helped us. Like the runs and stuff, like Chris told me, like let the ball go and stuff like that. That was like awesome for me.
Absolutely. Joby, if I may ask another question. So, you talk about your brother, you played soccer together. Interestingly enough, you played on a doubles tennis team together as well last year. What has what has your brother meant to you? Not only athletically, but, just as a person, what has he meant to you? And, what was it like, playing alongside of him?
It's awesome. I love having my brother by my side. And he just mean a lot to me. And just having the opportunity to play sports with my brother is just awesome. I just love that guy.
So, Johnley, Joe added a little sidebar there about your Athlete of the Week performance, and that included a couple of extra points against West Scranton on Friday. So how did you get interested in joining the football team and becoming the Dunmore Bucks?
I just thought it was cool, just like kicking an extra point or a field goal, just like my friend Pat used to do, and Eric. And they're just like encouraging me to join it. So I just did it. And then I thought it was cool to just be a part of another sport.
What's like the difference for you? Is it weird kicking a soccer ball and then going to kick a football? Like what's kind of the difference for you there?
The football is way harder, and then it's like a straight, like kind of ball, and then the soccer ball is just like round, and the football is like pumped up. It kind of hurts sometimes.
Not really. Yeah, so you wouldn't want to head a football, is what you're telling me.
Oh no.
How much practice did it take for you to kind of get down the technique of kicking a football through the uprights? It's not just because you're a soccer player. There are certain things that you had to learn, I'm sure, right?
Actually, no. I just want to I just want to kick the football just like a soccer ball too. So I didn't have any practices. I just like went straight to it.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. So, obviously you're very involved with sports at Dunmore, playing two simultaneously. What is it? What's the best part for you playing sports at Dunmore?
Probably just like being there with my friends and like have all of them support me and then supporting them too. And just getting all the supports from the parents and all that. That's awesome.
Now, John, so you suffered an injury in soccer, right, to your wrist, and then you weren't able to kick off for football games. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Have you since returned to kicking off, or is that something that you still have to hold off on doing?
Not really. So there's another kicker that just joined, Russell.
Okay.
So like he's doing the kickoff and I'm doing like the extra point and the field goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, around the football league. I know Joby, you had a story about it recently, how, soccer players are contributing in the kicking game for a lot of football teams. Yeah. How cool is that for you to kind of be part of, a bunch of, among a lot of kickers who also play the sport?
I actually enjoy it a lot. I just want to kick. There's no difference. So
Absolutely. Johnley, you also mentioned to me that you're going to Lackawanna. I think you're going to rejoin your brother on the soccer team.
Yeah, I am.
How excited are you to get back? Obviously you want to finish off your high school career, but how excited are you to get back on the field with your brother next season?
I'm so excited. The other day I was just watching videos of me and him playing together in the field, and I just missed it a lot. And just going Lackawanna and play with him now, I just can't wait for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, you said you want to go to Lackawanna to study architecture. That's a great thing. What got you interested enough to, try to kind of pursue architecture in college? What's interesting about it to you?
More like drawing stuff and like building little like houses and stuff. And my aunt she does architecture, and I do like some math, even though I'm not that good at it. But like I try a lot.
Don't worry, we're terrible at math too. No, you're good. What was I gonna say? Joby, do you have anything else for for
I
Johnley?
wanted to ask how much he's looking forward to the postseason here coming up, Joe, in two sports. Obviously, we know that the Dunmore soccer team is doing quite well, I guess, and we have the football team has already clinched the playoff spot, so he's going to be carrying a lot of activities into the postseason here. How much are you looking forward to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. How much are you looking forward to the postseason in both of your sports?
Oh, I don't know. I'm really hyped and nervous at the same time. But I just want to do it for both of them, and I want to get the district title for soccer, and then win it for football too.
Absolutely. Johnley, I'm going to ask you one last thing, and feel free to not do it. But I want to say hello to my aunt in Brazil in Portuguese. Can you say hello to my aunt on my behalf on this podcast?
Yes. Can you tell me her name?
Her name is Bonnie, my Aunt Bonnie.
Oh, oi Bonnie, como você tá?
I love it. I love it. There you go. I'm going to have her listen to this podcast now. She's going to love it. What was I going to say? And Johnley, I'm not the biggest soccer guy. I know that you follow Real Madrid. That Premier League happens way too early for me. I'm usually sleeping when it goes on. But I do have a Neymar one of those T-shirt jerseys. So I am with you. Yeah, when the U.S. men inevitably lose like they do every year, I usually end up rooting for Brazil when it comes to the World
Cup. I'm also wearing a Dunmore jersey right now.
Oh, nice. There you go. That's awesome. Unfortunately, my shirt doesn't fit anymore.
Oh.
I've kind of let myself go. But hey, Johnley, in all seriousness, congratulations on a great week. Dunmore seems to be playing great soccer right now. So yeah, congratulations and good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you guys.
Congratulations, Johnley.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that was our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week, Johnley Jean of Dunmore Boys Soccer.
Joe, that's two Dunmore athletes in a row. Am I correct?
How about that? Will it continue into next week? We don't know.
They're certainly capable of having some candidates every week.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, it's so impressive for someone. We have some great soccer players across the board who keep putting up great performances. But, this one stuck out to me big time. When the last time we had a soccer player on here who scored 8 of their team's 9 goals in a week, her name was Lilia Calvert, and she's going to Rutgers. So it's really impressive.
Oh, didn't she reach a milestone last week too?
Yeah, she did. 150 goals, Joby.
Now, Joe, there was a little bit of a discussion on my Facebook page. Wondering if that's a Lackawanna League record. And I must admit, Joe, I conceded that I have no idea if it was a Lackawanna League record. And then apparently there were some debates going on, and some people have done some research. Now, I don't confirm or deny anything on Facebook because I don't know if any of that information is accurate. But 150 goals is a big number, no matter if it's a record or not.
Agreed. And I don't have that information. I could totally see it. It sure seems like a heck of a lot of goals, Joby.
Yeah, I can't remember anybody landed on that number, Joe.
Right. So I wouldn't doubt it.
We may have to ask our good friend Dan Berg, who is a soccer historian in his own right. So
exactly. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, for Johnley to put that performance together against quality teams, especially Western Wayne, a last second goal, Joby, it's on Facebook. You could look it up, and it really is. It's like as the time expires, like that doesn't happen in soccer.
Not that often, Joe.
It's not like it's not like basketball. It's a buzzer beater. It's just like, so, what an incredible week for him. Totally thrilled for him. And
he's a 2-sport kid in the season, which is impressive.
Yeah.
And, anytime you're able to do that and excel at both, during the course of a week. That's pretty outstanding for him.
Exactly. So, and it is pretty cool. I'm glad you highlighted it, Joby. You know, I keep going to all these football games, and I swear every game I go to, you know, the kicker's on the soccer team, or at least it seems that way.
The emergence of these kickers and their ability to convert what I would say anything between 30 and 40 yards with consistency has really changed the game and the approach to offense inside the 20. So they certainly are weapons, but I have been more impressed, Joe. You know, you look at that story I did. Reagan Decker from Delaware Valley, I got a chance to see him a couple of times live now, and he had a real good summer. And his kickoffs, Joe, are going to the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an impressively strong leg to do that at the high school level. Now, he's also a very large athlete.
He's huge.
He must stand out when he's playing soccer. Valley out there on the field. But yeah, it's been pretty impressive. You know, we spoke last week about Jack Hartshorn kicking the last second field goal to beat Scranton Prep. These kickers are really becoming weapons, and I will tell you, I'm not afraid to bring this. It's going to be extremely difficult to select an all-region kicker this year. It really is.
Absolutely, it will be. And
it's going to be a challenge.
You're right about Reagan Decker. It's funny when I covered their game earlier this season, their soccer game. You know, you just kind of walk onto the sideline and you can't miss him. He's tall. He's tall. He's built.
They list him at 6'3", 210. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a massive. You know, he does not look out of place when he goes out as a kicker on the football team.
Seriously.
And that's not me digging at anybody playing who's a soccer player playing football, but generally, you know, they're not 6'3", 210 pounds. Reagan Decker looks like he could play defensive end.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. But I do want to as quickly as I can, Joby, we did have some other great performances.
It was a good week, Joe.
Yeah, from last week. We had a lot of people hit milestones. And these kind of happened in the order that I received them, so in no particular order. Jamie Przlowski of Holy Cross early last week scored 4 goals in a win over Carbondale area, including the 50th of his career. In a long line of very good soccer Przlowskis. Jamie is another one. Adam Sorensen had 4 goals in a 5-5 tie with Old Forge. The week prior, he actually hit his 50th career goal. We didn't get that information until a little bit later, so I'm a little bit behind on that. Pia Zangardi of North Pocono Volleyball had 12 digs, including the 500th of her career in a 3-0 win over Mountain View. Added 12 digs in a 3-2 come from behind victory over Western Wayne and 22 in a 3-2 loss to Delaware Valley. We also had Demia Peregrine, who obviously comes up on here pretty often. Believe it or not, she scored some more goals, 7 in total last week in an important win over Holy Cross, a 4-3 win, and a 7-2 win over Lakeland. Lisa Franczek of Holy Cross girls soccer had 2 goals and assists to lead the Lady Crusaders to a 3-2 victory over Lakeland. Added 2 goals in a 4-3 loss to Old Forge, and she had 3 goals in a win over West Scranton. Another volleyball player, Nora Crambo. That Lakeland girls volleyball team, Joby, they're playing really well. Had 20 kills, including the 200th of her career. 12 service points, 13 digs to lead Lakeland to a 3-2 upset victory over Dunmore. Macy Lazorchek, Western Wayne girls soccer, had 2 goals and an assist to lead Western Wayne to a 4-2 win over Montrose. That was an important game in trying to lock up the Lackawanna League Division II title for the Lady Cats. She also added a goal. They had an interesting game against Wyoming area this weekend, a non-league game. They did lose at 9-3, but that's important when it comes to the district playoffs to kind of get a feel for some better teams, and Wyoming area is an excellent one. Abington Heights, Joby had a big win, obviously, in volleyball over Blue Ridge, a battle of unbeatens. Hilde Temblador Is that correct? Okay.
Very well done, Joe.
I try. I'm getting better with these pronunciations. She had a team high 16 kills, including the 100th of her career, to lead the Lady Comets in that win over Blue Ridge. Kendall Jones, again, no surprise, but he had a big week for Elk Lake cross country, setting a course record, running a time of 15:44.8 to lead Elk Lake to a 22:33 win over Mid-Valley in a battle of unbeaten teams. He also won the Bob Green Invitational in New York later in the week. Greta Krimmel of Lackawanna Trail Field Hockey had 2 goals to lead the Lady Lions to a 3-1 victory over Wyoming Valley West, and added a goal and an assist in a 5-0 victory over Delaware Valley. Vera Downey of Holmesdale Girls Soccer had 5 goals and an assist to lead the Lady Horns to a 9-0 victory over Elk Lake. She also had 5 goals and a 10-0 win over Carbondale area. Adam Badurka of Holy Cross Soccer had 2 goals in an upset victory over Riverside in a Division III battle, I believe handing Riverside their first Division III loss. He had 2 goals and an assist in a 7-0 win over Carbondale area.
Joe, he's also playing 2 sports in the fall. He's part of that. He's part of that Benny Magnotta basketball showcase league over at Riverfront, and he's up over there too, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah. He's due for another big basketball year as well. Lilia Calvert, as we had mentioned,
she can't be athlete of the week again, Joe.
Yeah, she can't. Exactly. We can't give it to her. We can only give it to her once. So yeah, she had the 150th goal of her career in the 7-1 win over Troy. Chloe Mistician, Western Wayne Girls Soccer, had 2 goals, including the 50th of her career in Western Wayne's 9-3 loss to Wyoming area. But there's another 50-goal milestone. Another milestone, Gavin Anders of Abington Heights football caught 6 passes for 73 yards and a score, becoming the Comets' career leader in receptions with 119, surpassing the previous mark of 118 set by Mason Fedor. He also had 5 tackles and a fumble recovery in Abington's 31-14 win over Wallenpaupack. Finally, the last one I have here to highlight is Josh Dudek of Dunmore football. He scored a touchdown, blocked a punt, intercepted a pass, recovered a fumble to lead the Bucks to a 42-7 victory over West Scranton. I hope I didn't leave anything out, but that seems to cover pretty much every part of the sport. So, after I've listed all that, I think that's all the time we have, Joby. So we're gonna.
No, Joe, listen, it was a good week last week. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I was juggling a lot last week.
Yep.
And I did want to kind of love to use this phrase too, Joe, because it's from one of your favorite people. I want to circle back to the Abington Heights Blue Ridge girls volleyball match for just a moment, if I could.
Of course.
So that was an excellent battle between 2 very well coached, well disciplined girls volleyball teams. Now, if you have never, as a high school sports fan, attended a girls volleyball match, I strongly encourage you to do so at some point, to just marvel at the skill that these teams are now playing girls volleyball with now and in our area. Now, we've had some pretty good teams in the past. Holy Redeemer's always among the best in the state. But to see where these programs from the Lackawanna League have come in such a short period of time in terms of, just the execution of volleyball plays, the fundamentals. People often view girls volleyball as like what teams or, kids do in gym class. That is not this.
Right.
And I really want to credit the coaches in the Lackawanna League girls volleyball, because they have done a tremendous job. And we've got some real good ones here in this league. And, the atmosphere of Blue Ridge is always very intense. It's also very hot in the cozy confines of that gymnasium, but the kids weathered that and they played great volleyball, and it was really it was an outstanding match between 2 extremely talented teams, and I think both will do well in the postseason. Now they're both going to be facing extremely daunting challenges in the district playoffs, and that's exactly how you want it.
Yeah.
Abington Heights will try to knock off defending champion Berwick, which is also a very talented team in Class 3A. And Blue Ridge, Joe, had dominated Class 1A for 10 years, moved up to Class 2A last year because of, I believe, 2 students there over the cutoff line. And, Blue Ridge is going to have to try to get past Holy Redeemer, which has dominated Class 2A for the better part of 2 decades. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's really an exciting time for girls volleyball in the area. And I know you mentioned Lakeland because I did a little feature story on them on Sunday.
Right.
So that's one of these new programs in the Lackawanna League. It was expanded to 16 schools sponsoring the sport. And Lakeland really did it grassroots style. I mean, Nora Crambo and Abby Gritzula kind of got out with flyers and posted them throughout the school. And they encouraged a lot of their classmates to come out and give it a try. Both of them had participated in club volleyball in their past and in their youth, and they loved the sport. Lakeland did not have it. So they kind of got out there and spread the word, and they got kids to come out. And I think the program overall is only 3 years old, but it's only been the league official member for 2 years. And now here they are. I think they're 6-6 or 6-7 overall and 6-6 in the league. So it's a real credit to Coach Ron Crambo and the girls on that team. Just fantastic job by all of them.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right, Joby. And one thing I was thinking about, I'm glad you did. For some reason that reminded me that we in fact had tennis championships today.
Yeah, today we had the singles championships today. Now, last week when as I mentioned, I was juggling a lot of sports. We had the team championships, and to nobody's surprise, and I hate to put it that way, but it is what it is.
Right.
Scranton Prep won the Class 2A championship, remaining undefeated. Will now advance on to states, where 2 years ago the Classics won the state title, and last year they finished as the runner-up. So we'll see how that will play out. They certainly have the talent to compete again for a state title in 2A. And then Abington Heights won its 8th straight Class 3A team championship. So that was last week. But then today, our friend and colleague Tom Fox took over the coverage because, as you know, I'm booked for Game Face on Mondays.
That's right.
So today we want to send out congratulations to Montrose Junior Kara Evans, who is the District 2 Class 2A singles champion. She was the runner-up last year to 3-time PIAA champion Ilana Rosenthal from Wyoming Seminary. And believe me when I tell you, Joe, I think Kara is going to do quite well at the state level. And now a lot's going to depend on how she handles her first experience at Hershey. Right. It's a much different atmosphere down there and a lot more intense, steady, intense play. But I think she can fare quite well in that Class 2A bracket. And congratulations also to Abington Heights senior Sona Hanyamali. And the reason I really want to congratulate her is, she is like some other players in the league on a very talented roster at Abington Heights, and she has had to play at number 2 singles at times behind 3-time District 2 champion Susan Arp. And now she has moved up to number 1 singles, and in another Abington Heights versus Abington Heights final, today, Amishi Amit was the other finalist. Sona was able to come back and win that championship, so I'm very happy for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And so some interesting tidbits that, of course, and you mentioned, Abington has 8 straight district singles titles. Bella Peters, I think, won 4 straight.
That's correct.
And Susan Arp won 3 straight.
That's
that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So there you go. And I found it pretty cool. Like you're saying, like you already said, Joby, Kara Evans is a hell of a tennis player, and she's got a chance to do big things at states. What I found interesting from Tom's story is that when she lost to Ilana Rosenthal last year, Rosenthal's parents came up to her and said, "Don't worry, you're gonna do some great things. You've got some big things ahead of you."
Yeah, her time was coming.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to read, and now here we are. She's a district champ, and obviously gunning for more. So we'll see how it goes. But as always, it'll be exciting. But Joby, where I do want to go now is obviously we often talk, we're mostly a high school sports podcast,
Correct.
but I think we'd be remiss if we did not talk about this Penn State situation. Boy, did it just kind of really fall apart. I never expected them to lose to UCLA. I certainly didn't expect them to lose to Northwestern. They did that. Next day, fire James Franklin. Decommitments followed. Tavian Branch, as you wrote about, is keeping his commitment to Penn State, but he reopened his recruitment and received an offer from Nebraska today. Joby, I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, so it does become a very complicated thing for especially seniors like Tavian Branch.
Yeah.
At Riverside.
Right.
He committed to Penn State, and I know he really liked James Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that you can really point to that James Franklin did wonderfully at Penn State was he was an outstanding recruiter.
Yes.
He really sold a lot of talented athletes on what it meant to be part of the Penn State family and the area there in State College. Okay.
Yep.
Also, Joe, I just found it, I don't like to offer too many opinions on these types of things because I just feel that this is the first tremor of what we're going to see in college football, which will look more and more like semi-professional football.
Yes.
Very soon as we continue to evolve in this NIL era. And what I mean by that is, we also had the Tennessee Titans fire a head coach, Brian Callahan, today, okay?
Yep.
That is more commonly practiced at the professional level because there is no real recruiting element of the National Football League.
Right.
Okay? There is some because obviously when you're trying to attract free agents, you have to be someone who kind of dig back to your college roots. But in the old days, in the traditional sense of college football, you really had to have a good, engaging personality and go into a family's home and convince their parents or guardians to, that their children, and that's really what these players are,
right?
Some of these children were going to be safe and well taken care of at the school that they chose to attend, not just be football players, okay?
Yep.
I think that era is gone. I think right now it's strictly a business. And that's what I think we saw here with Penn State. Now, there are various columnists across the state with various ideas of, what they see in terms of what James Franklin's fate had to be at this point. And I don't certainly see enough college football in terms of covering it to offer an opinion on whether I thought James Franklin should or should not be fired. I personally don't like to see anybody get fired from a job. The $49 million buyout makes it a little bit easier.
You're not kidding.
So you kind of just accept it. But there are so many factors here, Joe, that you mentioned. You look at Tavian Branch, he's a senior. When he says he's going to stay committed to Penn State, I'm not so sure. And this is strictly not anything that I discussed with him, but, you have to worry or be concerned with whoever the new coach is who comes in.
Right.
Is as interested in him as he is interested in the coach.
Absolutely.
And he probably has no relationship with this new coach, whoever it may be. Right now they're, I guess, on an interim basis with Terry Smith, right?
Yep.
So I don't know what Tavian's relationship with Coach Smith is at all. And I would be shocked if Terry Smith was the head coach moving forward.
Right. No offense to Terry Smith, but yeah.
Right. My guess is Penn State wants to make a splash and hire a big name head football coach because really it's about selling your product again and your program. So if Tavian Branch or any Penn State commit has no relationship with that coach whatsoever, a lot of them do. I mean, they're recruited by a lot of the same schools, so it's a tricky time at Penn State. It's certainly a tricky time for a young man like Tavian Branch who's playing in the middle of his senior year. His team is 7-1, trying to compete for a District 2 Class 2A championship. So I don't blame him for saying, look, I want to keep my commitment, but I also want to be able to have other options from other schools if I'm allowed to do that. And I believe he is. I mean, you can always decommit. I mean, that's part of the game now too. So
sure.
But yeah, most of the players who you've seen decommit, Joe, are members of the class of 2027.
Right.
That makes a little bit more sense because those players are underclassmen and they have a full year of recruiting ahead of them.
Yep.
And you want to certainly open those doors.
Yep.
Much quicker than you would normally.
Right.
But yeah, Joe, I just found it interesting. I know losing to UCLA was bad. Yep. I'm not a fool. And I know following up with a loss to Northwestern in a game where you lose your starting quarterback, and I don't care how critical you are of how Drew Aller plays, nobody wants to see a player or an athlete suffer that type of injury. It's a very scary.
Never.
And, obviously that's not a good look either at home on homecoming.
Right.
But Joe, I don't know how often I have told you this on this podcast, but the other team plays too.
You're right.
They play too. Their players are Division I athletes also.
Right.
They can eat. It's not. There's no unwritten rule that when you go and play Penn State, you're supposed to lay down and Penn State steamroll you.
Right.
And I found it just incredibly interesting when someone had posted James Franklin's year-by-year records.
Yep.
What did he have, like 4 or 5 10-win seasons?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. But, Joe, I think we're going to see a lot more of this moving forward. I think coaches will have a very short shelf life in college now that the bygone era of 10 and 20-year coaching stays was way behind the profession now at the collegiate level. And I just think with players now receiving that NIL salary that they're getting, not just NIL money, a salary from the school, expectations get heightened and patience wears thin.
Right. I think that's exactly what we saw here. When you're thinking of, coaching, taking away some of the things you said, and I guess the things that made me a little, I don't want to say sad because I didn't know the guy, but when people said like, oh, the way he used to interact with people on campus and he was a nice guy, family guy. So, that's awful. Again, $50 million really helps. Joe,
yeah, but you know what it is? It's about a quality of life.
Yeah.
I had I mentioned to you, I got a chance to meet James Franklin when he flew into via helicopter to watch Tavian Branch play against Montrose, and he's an engaging guy. He really is. I don't know anything about how he coaches or what he's like at practice or what he's at at halftime of games, or this criticism that everyone has of him of not being able to win the big game, so to speak. And clearly there's evidence of that out there. But, I enjoyed talking with him on the sideline. You can just tell he has this wonderful way about him socially. And I think, I get it. Wins and losses are important and people want to win. I mean, fans want to win. Boosters want to win. That's why there was so much illegal recruiting back in the 70s and the 80s.
Sure.
It's important when people are giving money, their hard-earned money to a program, they want to see results. And sometimes nice guys finish last. And look, I think he did wonderful things for this program at Penn State. Again, I'm not a huge college football guy in terms of knowing the ins and outs of the game.
Right.
But by all accounts, he was a really terrific, players coach. And it'd be hard to argue with the talent that he brought into Penn State. Now, with that comes the pressure to win and succeed.
Right.
Which I think he did. I mean, he's got better than 100 wins.
It's true, Joby. But I also have to say he really never won the big game. I think that,
he did win a Big Ten championship.
Yes, in 2016. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I'm not trying to, but to play the other side of it, he wasn't winning those games. I think that's the last time he beat Ohio State. It also comes with, expectation as well, as you mentioned. This is a Penn State team that people expect them to win a national title every year, and they haven't been that team.
Yeah, and you know what, Joe? Sometimes, and I know I'm going to be out of school by saying this because Penn State did make the playoff last year.
Right.
If you remember back to that, and they had some success in the semifinals against Notre Dame, we had commented that Penn State really made out with a pretty good deal as an at-large team selected.
Right.
Because they drew Boise State and SMU.
Right.
Which I don't think anyone's going to put them in the blue bloods of college football. So, and again, when people say James Franklin never won the big game, well, those college football playoff games, regardless of who they're against, are big games.
Certainly. And they should have beaten Notre Dame. They didn't.
Now that's a criticism of him again.
Right.
But is it falsely placed? I mean, a defensive back fell down and left the receiver wide open for a touchdown. That's not because of James Franklin as a coach.
No, but that's.
But yeah, but I get it.
There are certain things that game management in situations. Right. We saw it in the UCLA game before the half. Time management.
Yeah, gone for 2-point conversions at the most awkward times.
Yeah. So it's that's all just to say that, like, I get it. I think that I don't know that this was the right time, but I think.
Well, I think it was the only time that they were going to allow, and this was it for the Penn State boosters.
Right.
And once those people who put a lot of money into the program, remember, there's a big renovation going on at Beaver Stadium.
Sure, exactly.
And they just signed a new sponsorship deal with Adidas.
Right.
So, I just think, and look, an interim coach in Terry Smith, maybe he turns this around and they end up reeling off a bunch of wins here and finish the season strong. But I don't think the program itself could have endured any more criticism of James Franklin. And then you start to get that being the main focus of game week, and kids can't prepare for the game.
Right.
And the season really spirals out of control.
Right. Exactly. And I want to touch on one thing, and you sort of got into it, but it is, we've talked to plenty of these people on podcasts. You've talked to many more than I have, just athletes in the area. And man, is it difficult to, think back to yourself, Joby. I think back to myself. You're 17, 18 years old, and it's like, okay, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And it's just like, I'm in high school. Like, it's like you're supposed to make this monumental decision. And now think of, obviously you were a big time athlete, whether you like to admit it or not. It's even harder for someone like Tavian Branch, who's, when he committed to Penn State, Penn State was a program that was, kind of on top of the world and looking like they were going to be competing for a national title.
Yeah, that was just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and now it's, I don't. It just has to be difficult.
It certainly rocks his world.
Right. Exactly. And
then he's got busybody reporters like me bothering him.
Exactly. So it's great that he did talk to you and everything.
Well, first of all, I also add to that, Joe. He is a wonderful young man.
Yeah.
He is mature beyond his years, and he's had a tough go here. He decommitted from Rutgers,
right?
For looking at, because he thought he had a shot to go to Penn State, and Penn State was one of the final schools he was looking at anyway.
Right.
He went on his official visit. He just got along so well with James Frank that he committed. So it's been and here again, he's trying to concentrate and help lead Riverside to a district championship. So, he's got a lot going on. And he called me yesterday after I just reached out to him and I just said, no pressure, you let me know. And then he announced today that's going to happen more often too with these young players.
Oh, certainly.
He announced on his social media account his decision. So we put some together for him, but he is a terrific young man. If you give me a chance to talk to him, Joe, you'll really enjoy him.
Absolutely. And that's kind of how I want to end this. I gotta, obviously we commend the athletes a lot on here, but, having to, go to school, play sports, do whatever extracurricular activities and have to try to decide what the next step in your life is, especially when it's something as big as where do I want to play Division I football or any sport. It's not just football. It's just, it's crazy to me, even though, I once had to make a decision in my life to commit to the C League intramural basketball at the University of Scranton. But
which, if I recall correctly, Joe, you were second in the league in scoring, right?
That's right. Oh, you know it. You see, you followed my career. I love it. A lot of Final Fours, Joby, but we never won it.
Again, couldn't win the big one, Joe.
Couldn't win the big one. I'm just like James Franklin. What a perfect segment. See, everything comes full circle, Joby. But yeah, I just, it really is just impressive what these athletes as teenagers are able to balance. And I guess that's my main point. I do want to get to one other thing quickly, Joby. Now, I found this very interesting because I didn't know about it, but the District 2 Class 3A football playoffs, Joby.
Mm-hmm.
District 2 has 4 qualifiers when they had 8 last year. Could you, I know that I read your story, but can you kind of could you take us through that? Because I guess that was always the plan for the 2-year cycle.
So based on what we know from the PIAA, and I'm going to, the handbook is the handbook. So
Right.
But so what is a past practice is when the state playoff format is finalized, it's always done in accordance with the 2-year cycle.
Right.
So there was a caveat in the District 2 Class 3A playoffs in the PIAA playoffs, where because the districts that are involved in the top half of the bracket, which we call the eastern half, okay? All of those districts have similar number of teams competing, okay?
Right.
And what that means is, so District 2 has 10, District 11 has got 9, I want to say District 4 has got 9 or 8, and so to be fair, in the first year of the 2-year cycle, they allowed 2 of the districts, which were District 4 and District 2, to have 8 qualifiers, and then that would put their champions into the quarterfinals.
Right.
And the other 2 districts, District 11 and the District 3/12 sub-regional, they had their 4 teams qualify. However that broke down. And then in the second year of the cycle, they would reverse course. The teams that had the 8 qualifiers would go to 4, and the teams that had the 4 qualifiers would go to 8. That's as simple an explanation as I can give to you, okay?
Right.
It was an oversight. It was something that District 2 officials did not catch as what was a switch to it apparently was in the original handbook, and I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a bit of a misunderstanding where, when the state released the state bracket format this year, some District 2 Class 3A teams were a bit upset and perturbed.
Sure.
That they're into the 4 bracket. And And now that paints a really tight picture in week 9.
Yeah.
As teams were scrambling to try to get into that top 4. And I will tell you this, Joe.
Mhm.
There is one team in particular which I visited today.
Yep.
For game face.
Yep.
And that team is Scranton Prep.
Certainly.
That must focus now, because in this new format, 4 teams are getting in. 2 have already clinched. Berwick, which is undefeated,
Yep.
and Wyoming area at 7-1. Everybody else is within an eyelash of each other.
Yeah.
3 through 7.
Right.
And Scranton Prep's got to play a very good Jersey Shore team this week at home at Dunmore Veterans Memorial Stadium, and then finish against North Pocono.
Right.
In week 10. So it would behoove Scranton Prep, if it would like to defend its championship,
Right.
to win one, if not both of these games.
Exactly. Joby, and that's really the interesting part. Now, obviously, the strength of schedule does have Scranton Prep at number 3 right now in the Class 3A.
Correct.
Standings.
So what does hurt that strength of schedule, right?
Losses.
Correct.
So,
And not just losses by Scranton Prep, losses by teams that are on Scranton Prep schedule.
Right.
Just because Scranton Prep played Loyola Blakefield, which is a very good team.
Yes.
If Loyola Blakefield is 3-7, guess what?
right.
That doesn't help their strength of schedule at all. And the same goes for Canisius up in New York.
Right.
So, and Scranton Prep has to look at some other teams as well. I mean, the Division I teams in the Black Water Football Conference will all split.
Right.
But it's it's tricky, that strength of schedule stuff, Joe, when you don't have wins.
Right. And you've got Lake Lehman and Hanover area at 4 and 5. They're playing each other this week. Exactly.
That helps both of those teams.
Right. So it's like, it's just interesting. It's interesting.
Well, it's going to be a headache.
Yeah.
Is what it's going to be, not for me, but for Mike Ognoski. And again, it's a computer program. Nobody's sitting there fudging numbers.
Right.
Okay. The data gets put in and it spits it out.
Right.
So we'll see how it all plays out. But these games have taken on a whole new importance for the team scrambling for those last 2 spots.
Exactly. I do want to mention one thing, up at Berwick, Tymir Wilkerson ran a lot.
Well, he's an extremely talented football player.
Yeah, 390 yards rushing, breaking his own record he set last year. Geez, he's a heck of a player. I mean, I haven't seen them, but he's a heck of a player, and Berwick's having a heck of a season.
Yeah, well, he was a sprint champion a couple of years ago. He really kind of popped onto the scene in track. And last year, he wasn't used as much early in the year as a running back for whatever reason.
Yes.
And then as the season went on, he began to carry the ball, much more. And if you remember, which I know you have very difficult time with short-term memory loss, Joe.
Very.
Berwick gave Western Wayne all it could handle in the quarterfinals of the District 2 Class 3A playoffs last year. And I think that has really kind of been a springboard to the success you're seeing now out of Berwick. And it's interesting because if you can remember back in the 90s and the 2000s, early 2000s, and certainly way back in the 80s, Berwick was considered the best program in the state.
Right.
And, had to fall in a couple of hard seasons here and rebuilt the program back up. And now that community's charged up again. And this young man has done a great, and it played a big part in kind of relighting the fire there in Berwick.
Certainly. So Joby, we had a lot of discussion there. So we're coming up on the end of the show. We could go over a little bit.
Can I just mention, Joe, that we have North Pocono and Delaware Valley playing? I know we touched on it a little bit there, but North Pocono and Delaware Valley playing on Friday night. It's going to be our game of the week, obviously, but
right.
That's going to be a really good football game.
I'm really interested to see what, I mean, I'm not breaking any ground here, but I'm interested to see what happens in that. Obviously, I believe North Pocono would, if it wins this game, it wins its first league title since 2009.
That's correct.
So, and Delaware Valley is really coming on strong here. Obviously, you just covered a game where they beat Valley View 41-0. So this should be a really, really good game. Oh.
Number one ranked offense in the Lackawanna Football Conference against the number one ranked defense.
Yeah, and seeing North Pocono on Friday, Joby, boy, that's a physical team with a lot of talent. So
Yeah.
it's
On Friday.
I was gonna say it's gonna be a good one for you. Yeah. So Joby, anything else you want to preview? Anything that we may have missed here that you want to talk about?
I'm guessing we missed a lot, Joe, because
Oh yeah, we did.
happening.
We did.
But yeah, no, it's gonna be a really fun week 9. That clearly with the North Pocono DV being the spotlight game and really good game. But teams are, it's winding down here now.
Right.
2 weeks left in the regular season, so teams are trying to get themselves in position to challenge for division championships and then move on to the district playoffs. So, a lot of the brackets are set, or at the very least know the qualifiers in District 2 football. So this is going to be and it's also kind of an emotional time of the year for these seniors of the teams that are not going to make the playoffs.
Right.
It ends abruptly, whether people believe it or not. No matter where it ends or how it ends, it does end abruptly, and it's going to be sad for those kids who've really committed a very huge chunk of their lives to this sport.
Absolutely, and speaking of postseason, I know we've been talking a lot about it among the different sports, but soccer postseason starts next week. I believe it's October 22nd.
Joe, dust off your pad.
Exactly. I am going to be out and about. Let's just say that. I'll be covering as many games as I possibly can with my colleague Tom Fox, the other soccer writer, and I'm excited to see a soccer postseason. Obviously, taking people behind the scenes. I know I've said this, but I used to be a designer, a page designer, so a lot of the writing fell to other people, but now.
Yeah, you're not a fashion designer. You were
page designer. You don't want me being a fashion designer. My friend once famously said when he saw my outfit once out, he said, "Don't you have any sense of fashion?" And I think we know the answer to that. So
yeah, you were never going to be on Project Runway.
No, of course not. Of course not. So yeah, I'll be interested to get out there. I've had fun covering these soccer kids when I'm able to get out there. So I'll be excited for the postseason to see what we've got in store. That's going to be starting next week. And yeah, so believe it or not, Joby, I know you believe it, but we're reaching the home stretch here of the fall sports season. And
we really are, Joe.
We really are. It goes fast, but also it doesn't. So I want to encourage you to keep, obviously subscribe to this podcast. You can follow on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music. You can always follow on Podbean, where we record. This is where we record all of our episodes. Be sure to go to the website, the times-tribune.com/sports. It was funny, Joby. My friends' parents were like, "Oh, it used to be nice when the marathon results were in the paper," and I was just like, "Well, they were all online, so I encourage people, please. I know it's different, but we've got a lot of good stuff on the web of all the sports, all the high school sports every night. Go to that website. Joby always shares all the high school stuff on his Times-Tribune Facebook page, Joby Fawcett, the Times-Tribune. Joby's sharing video. I'm sharing video at Times-Tribune Sports on Instagram and on Facebook. And follow us on X at SportsTT. Especially for whatever we're covering, we're tweeting out stuff that's going on. So be sure to follow. We're reaching a busy time, but an exciting time in the sports season. The postseason is almost here, and it is here in some sports. So I'd like to thank our athlete of the week, Johnley Jean, Dunmore boys soccer, for joining us right after a game. We appreciate him fitting us in, and Joby, as always, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me as I take away from your writing time. So
my